very warm welcome to the Form. As always, we've plenty to get through and a huge week of racing coming your way. This afternoon, Group 1 racing on a Wednesday in the form of the Guineas from Caulfield. And then, of course, we count down to the weekend where we will enjoy the Caulfield Cup, the Everest, and also domestic Group 1 action in the form of the Livermore Classic. But for this afternoon, let's find out what's on the agenda. We start the show with Aidan Rodley, who'll talk us through the Cambridge Synthetic meeting. 8 races from there. He'll have a best and value bet. Justin Evans links in from the Invercargill Greyhounds, where they've got a big afternoon of racing, 15 races scheduled. Brent Zarafa, form analyst from across the ditch, to talk through the Guineas. Of course, Zuzarella, the favourite, on a big Wednesday of racing. And then we head out and about here on the Form, taking a story on House of Cartier in preparation for the Livermore Classic. So first up here on the Form, we've got Aidan Rodley, and Aidan filling in for Brendan Popwell with regards to the Cambridge Synthetic meeting. And I understand it's the last of the season. Great to have had the synthetic for this year.
Yep, certainly last of the year. Obviously, the season goes on into the autumn where they will be racing again, Emily. But it's not been the easiest of track to work things out on, and obviously having Brendan done all the form, he's become pretty much clicked in with how it's all working. And so for me to get thrown in for this one, it's not easy. There's only one race that's beyond maiden company. This is the third race, which is a 65 event. And so some of the form has been a little bit tricky getting through, but I had a deep dive through it last night, and hopefully we've come up with one or two, although I might have to be ringing BP, who's got the week off, spending a bit of time with the kids through the second week of the school holidays, just to make sure I'm on the right track.
And tell us about the ones that you've found. Have you got a best and value for us?
Yeah, I'm going to go early because it's a 7-horse race, and so that means 6 of them can't win, so that's better than when 12 of them can't win type thing. So I'm going to go with the horse at the top. That's Cathay Empress, who's been really good in 2 starts so far. Ran a good second on debut, beat home Cape Gem, who's a rival in this race, and then I ran a really good third there last time out. Both times hitting the line from well back. Might be a bit of a problem because there's just no speed in this race whatsoever. But on what we've seen of Cathay Empress, obviously prices aren't out when we're doing this, Emily, so I can't. If it comes up $1.50, then I apologise. And then for the value, I'm going to go to the third, and I'm going with a horse who's actually currently second on the ballot, a horse called Beltoy. I remember this horse earlier in her career, and she's winning by big margins. The most recent form doesn't look so good, but in a race where there's a lot of speed, if she can get handy to them, I think she can be a real player in this, and I think she'll be at an okay price. Of most interest to me, though, Emily, I think is the 7th on the card, and I just want to make mention to it. And obviously, this one's the Lindsay Sadley leading rider on the for the 2021. All these races just had that connection to someone who's based out of Cambridge and what they've done on the polytrack all year. But this is a really good race because we see, firstly, King of Reds is placed in all 3 races back. Has had 7 starts so far, placed in 5. Only 2 times that he hasn't been placed have both been in stakes company. And he comes up against Rockbank, who's had 3 trials, won the whole lot of them. And New Haka, a horse who went to the Pukekohe jump outs and won there, has been to the trials on 4 occasions and won all 4, but is only placed in one of the 4 starts race day. And then outside that, you've got a horse like Over to You, who was really impressive in winning at the trials. It's a really interesting race at the 7th of the card, but I went with King of Reds there. But as I said earlier on, Cathay Empress the best of the day in first.
Aidan, awesome stuff. Thanks for your insight. Good luck with that meeting. I'm sure you'll have done far better than you're predicting, and enjoy the day.
Good on you, Emily. Yeah, it'll be part of the trackside coverage on a Wednesday, so I'm really looking forward to being there, and hopefully people can tune.
Well, Justin Evans joins us to talk through what will be the Invercargill Greyhound meeting. And Justin, you've been pretty busy. Of course, you're at Matamata on Saturday, I understand it was. Looks like you're back home now. Tell me about the past week.
Yeah, it's been a bit crazy, Emily. Obviously, these crazy times we're living in at the moment, but really happy to help out. It was good fun getting back to the North Island and calling up in the north, filling in for George. But I think he's right this week. But yeah, it's been a little all over the place. A few hotel rooms and several plane trips, and got off the plane in Dunedin, and it was absolutely pelting down with rain. So it was a good welcome back to the south, anyway. But looking forward to getting back to the South Island racing this week. And as we say, Emily, the Greyhounds today with a big 15-race card.
Yeah, big card, isn't it, coming in from Invercargill? And I understand you've got a best, a next best, and also, of course, a value bet as well. Tell us about all of those.
Yeah, a couple of cracking bets, I think, Emily. We'll start with race 8, number 1, Charlotte Lou. We'll make her the best of the day. I think she's very, very hard to beat today. She's got a great little setup here. She was very good last week running second. Off box 8. I think box 1 better for her. She loves an inside draw. She's very genuine. She's got a perfect little setup here with dogs to her outside, either very slow or wanting to get out on the track. So I think she'll get all the space that she needs off the inside. And she's going to take plenty of beating for Daniel Lane, who were pretty accustomed to winning plenty of races at Invercargill over the last few months. So best of the day, race 8, number 1, Charlotte Lou. Another cracking chance in race number 9, punters, Claus and Rocky, who is number 8 for Matt Roberts. So this is an Arete Beach run. So for punters who are unaware, these races are actually for middle distance, a middle distance race for dogs who haven't won over the middle distance. So usually it's about who's going to be the strongest here. I think this dog absolutely will be, Claus and Rocky. He's been running home really strongly at the back end of his sprints. I think he'll win today. Race 9, number 8, Claus and Rocky. Good little multi maybe between those two. And yeah, one at a bit of value, Emily. Race 7, number 6, Homebush Caesar, who's an absolute nightmare to try and predict when he's going to front. He's a very enigmatic, in and out, rocks and diamonds performer. He can be very good. He can be very bad. And the distance between his best and worst is fairly significant. But I think he's due. I think this could be his race. He's drawn up where he needs to be, around the 5 or 6. I know that sounds weird, but he actually loves those middle boxes. He can fly the lids. I reckon there's a couple of question marks on a couple of dogs who'll be in the market here. I think he could just about win today. I think it's his day. Homebush Caesar at a bit of value, hopefully, in race 7. So that's how we saw it, Emily. Really good day coming up. It's a blaze. Can't wait to call him. My first time calling him. Probably the biggest engine in the country. He's making his debut today for Gina Dave Fahey.
Awesome stuff. We'll enjoy those 15 races, Justin, and thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Emily.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Brent Zarafa on the form this morning. Brent, great to have you with us again. And I can't believe Group 1 racing on a Wednesday again. Awesome stuff. Looking forward to that meeting.
Yeah, certainly good to have the 1,000 Guineas back to the Wednesday, which has been the traditional slot in the past. But over the past, I think 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years, it has been on the previous Saturday and run in conjunction with the Caulfield Guineas. But the Melbourne Racing Club decided they wanted to really boost the Wednesday meeting for the 3-day carnival, and the fillies get their time to shine in the sun. And look, unfortunately, we don't have any people on course, so it's not going to be a meeting where we do get a lot of people attend or any people attend, but it is a great card, and there's a number of good races as well outside of the 1,000 Guineas.
Yeah, there certainly is. We'll start with the 1,000 Guineas, obviously, with it being the feature, the Group 1. And there's a little bit of Kiwi interest around Zuzarella, of course, those Brendan and Joe Lindsay colours. Imagine if they could win the 1,000 Guineas. That'd be, I think, 2 Group 1s and a listed race in just 5 days. That'd be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying, and they're enjoying a terrific spring carnival. And the man in the saddle that has provided a lot of those victories is Brett Preble, and he's got a lot of confidence in Zuzarella, and understandably so. She was terrific winning her first 2 starts at Moonee Valley, and then she was defeated for the first time at Sandown last time out, where she wasn't able to run down Queen of Dubai, but it was still a good performance. And speaking with the Freedman team, they were of the opinion that she may have still just been a little bit short of a run, and she did have quite a solid blow after that 1,400 metre contest. So they feel she's improved fitness-wise, and she's now ready to run the mile. I think she's the best of the Melbourne fillies. You know, there's been a fair bit of commentary over the past couple of weeks where the 3-year-old fillies haven't exactly sort of stood up as a strong group at this point in time. But I think the horse to beat is rightly so the Chris Waller trained Hinged, who comes down from Sydney from the Group 1 Flight Stakes. And she's a recent acquisition for the Chris Waller team. She was formerly trained up in Queensland and ran really well as a 2-year-old, and she's come back as a 3-year-old in fine style. And she was terrific in the Flight Stakes behind Never Been Kissed, who's subsequently come out and ran really well against the boys and behind Profondo in the Spring Champion Stakes last Saturday. So I think that form may be a little stronger than what we've had here in Melbourne. That's not to say that Zuzarella isn't a strong chance. I definitely think she is, but I just think Hinge brings a stronger form line, and she still looks like she's got a bit of upside. She's only had 2 runs for Chris Waller. She's now third up, gets Damian Lane in the saddle. The market has been trending towards her, and I think she'll start a clear favourite and be quite hard to beat on Wednesday.
And then, of course, we get to a couple of the features on the undercard as well, including the Blue Sapphire, Group 3 for 3-year-olds over the 1,200 metres. And right at the top of the page there, a name that jumps out as Profiteer. Maybe he's just the horse I know best, but what can you tell us about the field as a whole?
Well, he's certainly the interesting runner of the race because he went into the Moir Stakes first up as a favourite in a Group 1 weight for age contest, and that was on the back of what was a brilliant juvenile campaign. And he's a horse that we do know has a lot of speed. He is a ball of energy, and he was probably a little underwhelming first up in the Moir. Now, there may have been a few excuses. There could have been a little bit of pressure underneath him, but I was still expecting a little bit more from him. So it is an interesting task now because he goes from 1,000 metres against the older horses to dropping back to his own age group, but jumping up to the 1,200. And Mick Price and Michael Kent Jr. have made a couple of key gear changes here with a crossover noseband going on and the addition of earmuffs. So clearly they're trying to get the horse to relax. There's 2 pieces of gear there that are utilised to get the horse to calm down. And he's going to need to calm down if he is set to run out a strong 1,200 metres. And I'm still a little bit up in the air with him. I think he's an exceptional talent. Is he going to run a strong 6 furlongs against a pretty handy bunch of his 3-year-olds? It's a really big question because Mick's moment from the Chris Waller team was terrific, winning a race at Moonee Valley recently, and he's unbeaten at this stage and looks quite progressive. You've also got Port Louis, who's a maiden, but was sort of competing in some good races as a 2-year-old, maybe even 1,600 metre contests, but the Kieran Maher and Dave Eustace team have suggested 1,200 metres is where they feel he should excel this campaign. Jigsaw's been racing particularly well, and even Extreme Warrior, who is a stablemate of Profiteer. He only went to the bush and was, a winner of a maiden in good style at his last start, but his previous campaign as a 2-year-old, he had some form around General Bow and some good handy sprinters as well. So I think Profiteer is going to start favourite. It might be hard to run down, but I just have some reservations just whether he's going to relax enough to run out a strong 6 furlongs.
And then, of course, we move on to the Coogee Cup, race number 2 on that card from Caulfield. And Sherwood Forest is a former Kiwi in that race. What can you tell us about his chances?
Well, I think Sherwood Forest is still going to find the 1,200 metres on the sharp side. I think he'll improve from his first up run, and he does get a nice weight relief off Floating Artist, but I get the impression that 1.5 miles will be when you'll start to see the best of Sherwood Forest. And Kieran Maher and Dave Eustace have a very, very talented galloper in the form of Floating Artist here, who's only had 4 runs in Australia. 3 of those have been victories. And it is worth noting that they scratched the horse from the Herbert Power last Saturday at Caulfield on race morning to save him for this. Now, the Coogee Cup on the Wednesday is now providing the last golden ticket into the Caulfield Cup. The field will be finalised later after the program for the Caulfield Cup on Saturday, and this is the last opportunity to push into the field. Now, Floating Artist has 50 kilos in the Caulfield Cup. If he wins, he gets Ballied exemption. He doesn't get a penalty, and he will be a live chance, I believe, in the Caulfield Cup on Saturday. So that's the reason they've gone in this direction. And just looking at the race, there's only a field of 9, and there's not a lot of pressure. There's a lot of horses that want to sort of settle off midfield and get back. And I think it provides the perfect opportunity for Theo Nugent to roll forward on Floating Artist. I think he either leads or sits second. And I'm finding it hard to see how they run him down. Now, he's priced as though he's going to be extremely hard to beat. He is a $1.90 favourite, but I think it's very much deserving. He's rapidly rising through the grades, and the figures that he's been posting from a ratings perspective have been very impressive. And I'm not to think that he would be, one of the leading contenders in the market for a Caulfield Cup, but I think he will be somewhat of a chance. And I think he'll just be too good for this field. I think he'll win the Coonji, and I think he'll win his way into the Caulfield Cup.
Good stuff. And of course, for those enjoying the safari that is Emily and David Brown racing, Rhinoceros is in race number 1 on that card. And how do you assess his chances?
He was good winning at Moonee Valley last time out. It was a bit of a drop back in grade from where he had been at his previous start, and he found the front comfortably. It was a track that probably suited on-speed horses that night at Moonee Valley, but he excelled, and he meets a horse that finished behind him in Capital Legend again at Caulfield on Wednesday. And look, Capital Legend probably had a few things against it, so you might mark it up to say that it potentially could turn the tables on Rhinoceros. But again, I think he finds the front quite comfortably. I think he's going to be relatively hard to run down, and he's been a great little, I suppose, travel mate for the leading contender in Elephant, who unfortunately didn't measure up in the Toorak there on Saturday. But I think Rhinoceros is going to be very hard to run down again. I think he's a terrific chance.
Well, now I get to the crunch point. What have you got for best and value bet for us on the card there from
I'm pretty keen on race 5, number 9, a horse called Frankie Pino, who is absolutely flying of late for Tony and Calvin McAvoy. It was a good winner 2 starts ago at Sandown, and then bumped into a very smart mare in Cirilio Miss at Sandown again last time out. His racing pattern is to get back. He'll be back near last, and with the rail out 9 metres and a little bit of rain about, Caulfield's been playing perfectly of late. I don't think there'll be any issue with that sort of track pattern. So Frankie Pino should storm over the top of them late. That's what I'm expecting. At around sort of that $4 mark, I think it's a really nice bet. In terms of a value, I don't necessarily have one, but another horse that I'm keen to be with is race 3, number 9 in Alcyone, a horse from the James Cummings Godolphin team. Finished behind Mr. Brightside last time out. Mr. Brightside's won 6 in a row here in Victoria and won the Seymour Cup at listed level on Sunday. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for Alcyone to step up to the 2,000 metres and get the job done. So race 5 is Frankie Pino, race 5, number 9, and race 3, number 9 was Alcyone Mother. That's the other bet that I was keen to have.
And just looking ahead to obviously some of those key races coming up in the next couple of weeks, a Caulfield Cup, what's your assessment of the field? I've been following Incentivise since a Brisbane Winter Carnival, and so glad to see him sort of making the grade down there in Victoria.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable, the trajectory that this horse has been on since basically March when he won his maiden, and we're in the middle of October now, and he's put together an array of victories at different levels, and now as a dual Group 1 winner at Flemington, winning the Mackay Diva Stakes and then also the Turnbull last time out. And he deserves to be considered the horse to beat. He will carry top weight of 55.5 kilos in the Caulfield Cup. So with a lack of internationals arriving in Melbourne due to coronavirus and also the new restrictions, the weight scale is quite compressed. So with nothing above him, Incentivise has almost left as the top weight. The minimum is going to be around that 50.5, maybe even down to 50 kilos. So it's going to be a little bit of a different test from his past couple of runs. But for everything that we've seen from this horse, from his Brisbane campaign to now, you would like to think that there's still more improvement in him. He's only had 2 runs for Peter Moody. It's now his grand final. This is the race they've set him for. This is a race that he was purchased for. And I think he clearly deserves to be the horse to beat. A worthy challenger will no doubt be Delphi, who won the Herbert Power last Saturday and was terrific in doing so. You've also got Nonconformist, who went down so narrowly behind Probabile, who was terrific for Jamie Richards. And even a horse like the Chosen One, who placed in the Caulfield Cup last year. I think he's going every bit as good, if not better, this time around. And he should get his chance in the race at big odds as well. But I think, rightly so, Incentivise is going to be hard to beat. And at this stage, without knowing the final makeup of the field and the barriers, he's the horse that I would be leaning towards.
And of course, the Cox Plate as well looks like it's an ever-changing beast. It was just announced, wasn't it, yesterday, I think, Craig Williams to ride Animo. Awesome that he's even going to be in the field. I'm really excited to see the 3-year-old taking on the older horses.
Yeah, the Cox Plate's really changed complexion over the past 2 weeks. First and foremost, we had the defeat of Very Elegant at the hands of Incentivise in the Turnbull, which sort of not dented her chances, but just sort of took the glow off her preparation. And she's no doubt going to be a leading contender going into the Cox Plate, but she doesn't have that air of invincibility around her like she may have had in the past. And Then on Saturday, we had the overwhelming favourite for the Might and Power Stakes being Zaki, who was defeated for the first time in a number of starts. And as a result, Probabile's sort of there, and Jamie Richards now quite keen to head towards a Cox Plate, and rightfully so. Then you've got Animo, the 3-year-old, winning the Caulfield Guineas, going into the Cox Plate. And one of the biggest storylines is going to be now who is going to be booked for Zaki heading into the Cox Plate. Obviously, James McDonald had a great association with the horse in Sydney and then also up in Brisbane, but due to travel restrictions, hasn't been able to get down to Melbourne. But the jungle drums are beating that a group of Sydney jockeys are going to be able to get an exemption from the Victorian government to fly in and fly out, do some quarantine, and compete at the meeting at Moonee Valley on Cox Plate Day, and then potentially get back to Sydney. So with Craig Williams jumping off Zaki and heading towards Animo, I think it gives you a strong indication that that is sort of happening, and we're expecting that sort of confirmation in the next couple of days. But for a race that looked as though Zaki was, just had a complete stranglehold on it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, it's now going to be a very, very open Cox Plate, and there's a number of horses that have strong chances of winning it this year.
Well, that's why we love the game, isn't it? It changes by the minute. Brent, thanks so much for your time. A pretty exciting time for you guys, obviously, down there in Victoria, and looking forward to some of those features coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Not a problem, anytime, and I hope everyone can back a winner over the next couple of weeks.
Well, Bevan Sweeney was our man on the job when it came to House of Cartier. We sent him out and about to find out all about the mare in preparation for the Livermore Classic.
You've now had House of Cartier back for a couple of preparations and seem to have learned a fair bit about the mare.
Yeah, she's a big, strong mare, and she's just been working really good this time in. And I was pretty confident on Saturday going in. I was a little bit concerned being a mile first up, but that was great what she did. I was really happy with her. We've always had a plan. There wasn't a really good lead-up race beforehand, so she had one trial. The plan was to race on Saturday. She's going to have a trial in 10 days' time and then go straight into Livermore over 2,000. I'd probably prefer a little cut in the track, but she'll get away with 1 or 2 starts on a firm track, not a problem.
She's the sort of horse you have to be a little bit tentative with just because she's got a few physical issues.
Yep, we've always looked after her, so we lightly work her, and she swims a lot. She'll work in the morning quietly and swim in the afternoons, and just limited gallops, but nothing real bad. We're always looking after her.
Clean-winded type of horse, so you can race you sparingly into the Livermore?
Yeah, and she proved that on Saturday. I mean, first up into a mile, and the way she hit the line was strong. She did blow afterwards.
Under the 60 and a half, trying to fight them off, but House of Cartier is going to blow on by the last little bit. And House of Cartier, Peter Did and Sarah McNabb, big win.
The Livermore has fallen away a little bit, so it maybe just raises your expectation into a Group 1?
Yeah, they don't give away Group 1s, but 2,000 metres I think will suit her better. She's placed in a Group 1 Oaks in Australia, so the distance is not an issue. She should be coming in hard fit on her second run after a trial next week, and no, we'd like to think we're a top 5 chance.
She's giving themselves a bit of a hope here. In the middle it's Liffey from Ellen, but here's House of Cartier coming, and Shenanigans as well. She in great nick, and House of Cartier.
She's a very valuable broodmare for a group of owners who are very supportive of you.
Yeah, it's an amazing group of owners. I mean, you've got Peter Gillespie and Peter and Wendy Gillespie and Bill and Tanya Gleeson, who, they just don't race horses. They breed, they punt, they've got shares and stallions. So we need more of those owners, and we need them to have success in big races. And it's really exciting. So hopefully they can all get there on the day with this COVID. We just like to get there and have a good day, win or lose.
Interviews here on The Form this morning as we count down to the Group 1 1,000 guineas out of Caulfield this afternoon. Importantly, let's recap what our form analysts thought with regards to their best bets. Well, that's that's it from us here on The Form this morning. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning to preview more action across all three codes. In the meantime, enjoy Group 1 racing out of Caulfield this afternoon.